Good afternoon. This is the Thurston County Board of Commissioners for 7 February 2017. My name is Bud Blake, and I'm the chair for this year. And I'd like to start off by doing introductions. To my left, I have Commissioner Gary Edwards, and to my right, I have Commissioner John Hutchings. And to his right, I have Labanita Bowman, who is the clerk of the board. And to her right, we have the county manager, Ramiro Chavez. And to his right, we have the Deputy Prosecuting Attorney, Elizabeth Petrich. With that in mind, I'll ask Commissioner Edwards to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
And I would like to ask Erin Lonham to come up from over at the Evergreen. She's doing a class, and she's going to participate with us today.
Stand here.
Right there. Very good.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Lemon.
That's how it's done. Okay, that's how it's done. Okay. With that in mind, I'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda for 7 February 2017.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the Tuesday, February 7th, 2017 agenda.
I second.
It's been moved and second to approve the Tuesday, February 7th, 2017 agenda. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. And a motion for board minutes from January 31st, 2017.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the board meeting minutes from January 31, 2017.
I second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the board minutes for January 31st, 2017. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. And I'll accept the work session summaries from January 10th, 2017 and January 12th, 2017. So that leads us into the next item on our agenda, which is item number 1, where the opportunity for the public to address the board. And I currently have 3 people signed up, 2 that actually want to testify. And my first person is Georgiana Shattuck. Yeah, how you doing, Georgiana? Come on up to the mic and just tell us where you're from in the county generally, and then let me just tell the rules real quick. Labanita is going to tell us the rules of how we do the public speaking.
First, I'm going to have you move that mic down just a little bit.
Down.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
The clock starts off with a green light that lasts for 2 minutes and 30 seconds. You'll then see a yellow light for 30 seconds, and when you see the red light, it means your time is up.
Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead.
So my name is Georgiana Shattuck Peterson. I live at 2425 Sap Road Southwest. And I've spoken to several people here at the county and also at the city of Tumwater regarding the issue that I'm bringing before you. And I appreciate the chance now to express it publicly. First, I would like to bring to your attention a current provision in the Residential Sensitive Resource chapter that is resulting in unfair building limits for a high number of property owners. In particular, the lot coverage limits are preventing people from reasonable use of their land. The lot coverage limit in the Residential Sensitive Resource District has a limit of 40% of total area of the lot, or 7,500 square feet, whichever is less. This extra limit of 7,500 square feet is unrealistically limiting owners of larger parcels from building necessary structures. As this limit stands today, the maximum percentage of use I'm allowed on my parcel is 1.75%. This is the result of a 7,500 square foot limit on my 427,759 square feet of property. As you can see, this is far below the 40% maximum, which is a second measurement listed in that provision. Other neighboring properties have realized that 40% maximum. Since the adoption of the Low Impact Development Ordinance, the limits have become substantially more limiting. The changed language from maximum for all buildings to maximum impervious surfaces is now insurmountable for large parcel owners like me. My driveway alone is 10 feet by 1,000 feet, which by itself is already 10,000 square feet of impervious surface, well outside the maximum of 7,500 square feet. Parcels are protected from building in critical areas, so driveway lengths on individual parcels can often be long just to reach a suitable site. It is my firm belief that the consequence this lot coverage limit is placing on property owners was not the intent of the Residential Sensitive Resource chapter. I was a member of the original committee who drafted this new zoning at the city of Tumwater. I recall the main intent of this particular 7,500 square foot maximum was to provide building limitations within planned residential neighborhoods. The result of this for larger parcel owners, however, is an unfair and extraordinary limitation to the use of property. In order to remedy this, I'm requesting that this section be revised so that only the lot coverage limit of 40% remains, taking out the part that reads or 7,500 square feet, whichever is less, would allow a fair and balanced limitation no matter what size the parcel. It would also allow the residential sensitive resource zone to have lot coverage limits measured in more equitable and similar ways as other residential zones in Thurston County. A second request I would like the county to consider is increasing the limit of the ADU living space in this district from 800 square feet to 1,000 square feet. Increasing the living space would allow homeowners to receive a higher level of income from the dwelling unit, yet still allow it to remain an accessory dwelling due to the 2-bedroom maximum already in place. These two separate changes in your ordinances will create positive steps towards allowing reasonable use of our properties. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. All righty. The next person on the list is Mr. John Pettit.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. And the first thing I'm going to say is I'm John Pettit, down off of Rich Road. Congratulations, you all made it through the first month. You survived. It's not always easy to address so many different issues, but you've addressed a couple very significant ones. And one of the things which I wanted to mention has to do with the approach of how government is reached. Now, there's either a proactive approach or a reactive approach. A proactive approach means that we're getting direction from you, sent down through staff, and staff's bringing you back things. Unfortunately, there's been a few issues that have come to you the other way around for the first month. And because of that, it's very, very difficult, and you should never be put in a position where you have to make urgent decisions about topics. One of these particular topics, of course, had to do with the public defense department. I was reviewing some of the public and the historical aspect of public defense as far as budgeting process. And they completely neglected their responsibilities to serve the commissioners by preparation for the expenditures that were going to be required. Now, there isn't a lot of excuse because while one of you is here that went through the budget process this last year, I was standing right over there and suggested, do we have extra money there? Are you okay? What's the situation? And I was assured there was no problem. Then, of course, we now come up with another potential $385,000. It looks like maybe $30,000 too much, but nonetheless, it's still a significant amount. That's not an excusable thing. The previous year, they seemed to hit the nail right on the head without a problem. So there was a real drop of the ball, which caused major havoc. Another decision which came as an immediate thing had to be a decision about approving a loan to buy a building. Well, rather than get into a lot of detail on that, there is something which I would like to have made clear. I had heard that there was going to be potentially excess funds from the sale of a 3,400 building should and when that sale goes through. My own personal study on that issue tells me there is no money to be paying off that loan from the 3,400 building. So it'd be nice to get a real accounting. According to an article written just about exactly a year ago, there was about $2.4 million in bonds that were still owed on it at that time. And then, as my recollection is, there's still about $1.1 million worth of debt that should go back to the detention sales tax because it was never repaid back and it has not been used as a jail facility, which is strictly what the limits of that tax was for. So I'll look forward to getting some information back on that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All righty, so that concludes those who've signed in on the list. Is there anybody in the public that'd like to come forward to the podium to address the board? Yes, sir. Come on up. Sure. Just state your name and kind of where you're at in the county. Yeah.
My name is Jack Grimes. I live at 6525 76th Avenue Northeast, and I wanted to comment now in support of the lady that was speaking about the limitations that's imposed by the county on the usable area on property, what you can actually clear, and the impervious service issue. I think it's a issue, a serious one also in the rural county area, and I would encourage you to look into any constructive changes that you could make on that issue. And that's my issue for today. Thank you.
Sure. Yep, thank you, sir. All righty, one last glance. Is there anybody in the public that'd like to come to the podium? No? Seeing that, we'll move on with the agenda. And the next item we have is the update from the county manager. And I have a question for you too at the same time.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'd just like to provide you with an update on the efforts our county staff has been putting in response to the weather conditions that we had. The Public Works crews have been working and operating since this past Sunday, just trying to keep up with all the different changes and variations with the weather conditions. Crews have been working, and again, through the day and night, plowing roads, removing fallen trees, and applying brine and de-icing to prevent icing from happening like this morning and perhaps tomorrow morning. But I'd like to highlight in terms of the priorities the Public Works go through, just to make sure the public understands. Obviously, we cannot plow all the roads all at once, so we have to establish some priorities. And the priorities at this point are arterial roads that provide access to state highways and critical facilities such as hospitals and fire stations. That's number one priority to plow. Secondly, we go to collectors such as Kaiser Road, Liver Road, Kitsap, and Marion roads. And as soon as those are cleared, then we go back to the local roads and do that. We also have a snow routes for the public to operate for the most part in the county. And the snow routes can be found on the Public Works website if you're interested for the public. So the Public Works has 10 snow plows, 6 sanders, and 4 anti-icing trucks on duty at all times. And that's how we have been able to keep up to those weather conditions. The challenge becomes when the snow continues to fall, and as soon as you plow one main arterial, you have to come back and keep doing that. So it prevents us from getting into the local roads as we would like to. I'd like to provide the citizens a phone number. If they see any type of hazardous roads in any type of road conditions, to please call at 360-867-2300. Also, our emergency management staff is on standby just to be able to respond if the emergency changes. Thank you.
Any questions?
No.
I do have a question for you in the sense of the development code document that we normally have as we're going through it now. I was wondering if you could tell a little bit about the process in response to Mr. Grimes and Ms. Shattuck's testimony there, just in general.
Yeah, in general, as part of the comp plan amendment, we are required by state law to update our Thurston County Comprehensive Plan. Within that context, there are state requirements that we have to update the plan, but also there are some additional areas that you as a commissioners may like to see where that comp plan amendment can be updated. You have received a couple of briefings on that. Obviously, what is mandated by state law is perhaps a given as to what the scope of work it will be for staff this year. But within that context, you're also going to have other areas that you may consider, such as economic development and other areas that you may like to have the code updated. So within the whole context, as you hear testimony from the public, that may be part of your decision-making process to how you can probably task staff to look at any particular parts of the code.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that. You guys? Yeah.
Can I have a
Sure,
question?
absolutely.
About how long would Ms. Shattuck have to wait if we were going to make an adjustment, so she'd have some idea what she could do with her property?
Thank you. The comp plan amendments is a very complicated and complex issue, and that is pretty much mandated by state law as to how that can be done. You as a county commissioner can update portions of the code entirely, or pieces of it, once a year. And that's what we're facing. But also, depending on the complexity of the code updates, is the public outreach and the public involvement is what it takes some time to get to the point meeting the state requirements. And within that context, you as a commissioners would like to entertain many briefings as you will provide directions in all the specific items of those different code updates. So it works in tandem in way of how the staff is following direction, how staff listens to public testimony, how you listen to public testimony, and how you perhaps change based on the testimony you have received direction to staff. At the end of that exercise, they will have to go with an environmental process. And that is, again, required by state law. So it takes a little longer, although you can update in a yearly basis any portions of the comp plan. But to update a comp plan comprehensively, we may see probably close to 2 years to get it done.
And that's regulated by RCW, that we can only do it once a year.
We can only do it once a year, and that is regulated by state law.
Okay.
All right. Next item we have on the agenda is item number 3, which is the consent items. And with that, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to authorize the treasurer to write off uncollectible taxes, personal property taxes, personal T, in the amount of $12,944.21.
The consent items as a whole.
Oh, what's that? A through G.
Yeah.
I move to authorize the treasurer, okay, consent items A through G. How's that?
I'll second that.
How soon I forget.
We're just still in the learning stage here.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the consent items A through G. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. We're still learning. Okay.
Yes, we are.
That is great. Next item we have is a departmental item in resource stewardship. And with that, I'll ask Cindy Wilson to come to the board and to the podium and address the board.
Good afternoon.
Hello, Cindy.
I am bringing forward a request to the board to authorize executing an interagency agreement with the Washington State Recreation and Conservation Office. This is to fund Chehalis Basin floodplain home elevations. This is a pilot project that's part of a proposal to the Chehalis Flood Authority. We're planning on doing a pilot project to identify and implement local home elevations within the Chehalis Basin floodplain, focused on reducing impacts to structures from the flooding. The purpose of the pilot is to document processes, procedures, and lessons learned, as well as to implement an efficient and effective home elevation program that benefits homeowners, agencies, and basin interests. The intent of the grant is to cover 100% of the cost to elevate those homes. It is a pilot project. Right now, the amount of it is for $300,000. We do need to finish this portion of the pilot by June of this year, which is why we want to get going as quickly as possible. It potentially could lead to a larger funded project, but at this time we're figuring out what we're doing and documenting the process.
Any questions? Go ahead.
Yes. Where is that money coming from, Cindy?
That was one of my questions.
This is state money. It comes from the legislature. It comes through the the projects typically go through the Flood Authority, and there's some changes going on with the new Chehalis Basin office that's going to be part of ecology. But currently the Flood Authority is an independent group. The money will come through the Washington State Recreation and Conservation Office.
Thank you.
Cindy, you also said in your brief presentation that at this time it's $300,000. Is there a likelihood it's going to be higher than that?
Well, our initial request was for $1.9 million, and that was to identify all of the potential structures that might need elevating out there. It takes some screening and some on-the-ground work to find out if the information we have is correct. We're focusing right now on those that can be done in a short period of time, have repetitive loss, so they've been in floods before, so we're trying to get those. We will go out to the people that we've identified as qualifying and find out who's interested. So that's the first step, to see who's interested in doing that.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I heard the answers to both questions, but I was just wondering if you could just back up a little bit, because you and I have been working on this almost 2 years, and this is actually a
Right.
culminating point for you and I, and since a staff and a commissioner, tell the public just a little bit why this is important based on some of the flood calculations, and pick on Bucota for a while, how we've done a smaller pilot program there, I guess, in terms of elevating houses.
Yeah, we've been part of the Flood Authority, which is a significant portion of Grays Harbor and Lewis County and Thurston County. We do have some very positive, and I think maybe you've heard presentations before about our flood rating through the community rating system. We have a very high one, which helps reduce the cost of flood insurance for our homeowners. This is one of the first projects actually in Thurston County that's been funded by the Flood Authority. So we're looking forward to doing it, again, trying to remove the impact to the people while allowing them to stay within their existing footprints. So we don't want to have new development in the floodplains that might cause damage, but we are trying to help the people that are currently located there.
Sure.
Does that help?
Yeah. And one more question, just with this dollar amount, about how many homes do we anticipate impacting or assisting?
We're hoping to get at least 3 or 4, potentially more. We're waiting for the estimates and bids to come in once the homes are selected.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Nope.
Any other questions? Nope. All righty, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to authorize the Director of Resource Stewardship to sign an interagency agreement, any time extensions, and any amendment with less than a 15% change in funding with the Washington State Recreation and Conservation Office for a pilot project to identify and implement elevation of homes located within the Chehalis Basin floodplain. Contract not to exceed $300,000.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded as stated. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Okay, with that in mind is the item number 5, which is Commissioners and County Managers update, managers items. And here we have the commissioners kind of report back on where they've been for the last week as far as work sessions or committee meetings. And I'll start with Commissioner Edwards.
Well, again, it's, to say the least, it's pretty complicated, and I'm just going to give you a few highlights of where we've been. And I guess I don't get to talk about all the things we've done jointly in a public meeting because, well, no, we're all involved in that.
Oh, well.
The hours and hours of budget and
We'll split
code
that.
revisions and such.
Yeah.
Anyway, on Tuesday, January 31st, I met with the vice chair of the Thurston County Young Democrats here. She wanted to see how government was working, and we did an interview. And Wednesday, February 1st was the Olympia Master Builders to discuss their legislative priorities. And Monday, February 6th, Jim Wilcox and others from the Olympia Yacht Club came to discuss their position on what might potentially develop on Capitol Lake cleanup. And on the Capitol Lake Land Trust, we had a very successful breakfast this morning. A lot of people attended, and they're headed in the right direction to try and save sensitive lands for Thurston County. And I would hope most of those would not be able to be used for other things, and it's just beneficial as a public issue because they're oftentimes not a lot of dollar value. And I just let that go. That's about it for the week.
All right. Commissioner Hutchins.
It has been a busy week. I need to start off by wishing my daughter happy birthday. Today's her 34th birthday, and sometime in the future she may be watching this when it's televised. And happy birthday, Janet or Peanut. And I hope to see you very soon. And your gift should have arrived today.
Okay.
All right, business-wise, February 1, I attended the Fair Board. They had their meeting at the Thurston County Fairgrounds, and though we're not assigned to the Fair Board, they love it when a county commissioner shows up, so I got to hear what was going on, what they've been doing, what their plans are, renovations, improvements in the restrooms and painting and such. On the 2nd was the Animal Services Board meeting, but rather than a board meeting, it was a tour of the entire facility with the good, bad, and the difference. And it's difficult to walk out of the animal services without some animal in your hand. Dag nabbit, they're also cute and all that, but I was successful. Thurston County Regional Planning, the TRPC, we met on February the 3rd. And Shauna Stewart, the Executive Director of the VCB, the Visitor Convention Bureau, she came in and we met for about an hour, talked about all kinds of things relative to the Visitor Convention Bureau, economic development, bringing more business in to our community, our local economic development, and even talked about a convention center, some type of a convention center, just theoretically. The TRPC, as a member of that board, on February the 6th, yesterday, met with Representative Barkas and the executive director of TRPC, asking for a $5 million, asking for work to be done on alcohol and marijuana revenue sharing, so we can get increased in funds for that, from that venture. This morning was the Capital Land Trust 13th Annual Conservation Breakfast. That was exceptionally well attended at St. Martin's. And just this afternoon, the county manager, Ramiro Chavez, and I attended the South Sound Military Communities Partnership luncheon at the Hill in the O'Brien Building. And the Communities Partnership and TRPC did a pitch for senators and representatives on the I-5 corridor expansion. We were asking for $5 million funding for the study on I-5 from Mounts Road down to exit 99. So we'll see where that takes us. After this meeting, or after this evening, I'll be doing a tour at the Camp Quixote open house on the west side, and then later tonight, the legislative reception and banquet. Amen.
Okay, some of the items I've covered here in the last week, just to give you an idea where we've been. All three of us typically go over to the HR building we have here locally, and we love to address the new employees, get to know them, what we call new employee orientation. I bring that up because Thurston County is a great place to work. We have people here 15, 20, 30 years. One person's here 34 years working, and we love taking care of our employees right from the moment they walk through the door. It's absolutely marvelous to be able to meet them and understand where they're coming and where they're going and their endeavors here working for the county. So it's a great opportunity to say hello and then join up in partnership and working for the county. A couple other things as far as I'll sit on the legislative steering committee for WASAC, and we're also, it's a hard legislative season, so we cover everything from public health to public works to land use issues, transportation. There's a myriad of things that the county's pushing as far as over on the Hill in terms of either changing policy or budgeting items, as Commissioner Hutchings mentioned. And so I work those this coming Thursday, and I'll report back to you on what we'll be seeing. Another item that I attended is a Medicaid transformation demonstration, and what that's called, MTD. It used to be called the 1115 waiver. That's kind of the old name. And just to kind of give you a background on what's happened with it, the Washington State petitioned the federal government to allow Medicaid dollars to be used in 3 areas in support services. The areas are housing, employment, and health. And it's absolutely a wonderful thing that the two governments, the state and the federal government, come together to allow those waiver dollars, now MTD dollars, to come down to the county level and be used for support services. So, for example, housing, while these dollars cannot be used in brick and mortar or converting a apartment to a permanent support housing, those things that are what they call wraparound services or support services, those dollars can be used. So if you put a person inside the house and they need, say, mental health or employment services or some sort of whether there's a domestic violence issue, those support services can be used, and those dollars can be used towards those things. So it's a really good match in terms of our taxpayer dollars helping the community out, not only in structurally but spiritually and human-wise as far as what we need here in the county. I attended the Mayor's Forum. That's a quarterly item we do here, and that consists of the mayor from Rainier, Tenino, Lacey, and Yelm, and myself. And some of the things, it's just a round table, and some of the things we talk about are kind of simpler in nature in terms of crosswalks and how they work and don't work in our cities or what have you. Some of the calendar events that are ongoing that cross-jurisdictional from city to city or from the county. It's really just a good way to kind of roll your sleeves up, have a lunch, and understand some of the more down-to-earth issues that are going on. And it's a really good crosstalk, so more to come on that. Just the other day, we have what we call the Nexus meeting. I love the Nexus meeting. The Nexus meeting is a component of 3 action teams under the Thurston Thrives umbrella, where a housing action team, the clinical action team, and the law and justice action team get together. And we've been doing this for all of last year, and this year it finally is going to take a new turn where we add sidewalk. Mr. Phil Owen is now going to be on the part of this team, of these 3 teams, and where we integrate what we call the vulnerability index. That's the homelessness kind of index of where we have how many are high or low, depending on what's going on out there. But more importantly, with the 3 teams, the housing, law and justice, and the clinical, we'll look at those who are exiting the jails and just how we put them into what we call transitional housing, and then again, some of those support services that go along with that. With that in mind, we have a plan. It's called a pipeline plan. I might have mentioned to you before where we have a certain funding route for houses started up here in the next 5 years. I know it's 5 years away, but every year is a 5th year for us, so we'll always start a new set of units to help out with this transitional housing, and most likely be brick and mortar housing instead of converting an apartment to a permanent supportive housing. But it's just really coming together. It's almost taken us a 1.5 to 2 years to get these synchronizations of all 3 of these teams, but it's really exciting as far as county, local government getting involved there. So, any other comments? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'd like to just point out that this week that we had a real good meeting with the city of Lacey in regard to veterans activities.
That's right, very good.
And we're partnering up with Lacey to probably become a one-stop shop for veterans issues all the way around. But it's going to be a model for the rest of the nation by the time we get this put together, because it's one of the first in the nation that's partnered up the way we've got this put together. So I'd like the veterans to know out there that we are very concerned about veterans activities, and that's going to be a high priority of this board.
Yeah, good reminder. Anything else for you?
No, sir.
All righty, with that, we'll move to the county manager's review of the calendar and schedule of, for the rest of the week and therefore.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm going to walk you through your combined schedule for the next week. The appointments we're going to mention it to you do not include personal appointments that you may have on your individual calendars. This is just reflects meetings that at least 2 commissioners will be involved. So tomorrow, Wednesday, February 8th at 2 in the afternoon, you will have a briefing on Title 26, Code Enforcement. At 3 in the afternoon, you will have a briefing on the Development Code docket, and that is the next step on the comp plan amendment process. And at 3:30, you will have a briefing from the Emergency Services Department. They will give you an overview of their business and their activities. On Thursday, February 29th, at 8 in the morning, you will have an executive session. And just for the public's understanding, executive sessions are not open to the public. And those are intended for you to have a conversation in the specific matters, ranging from legal actions to personnel matters. So this one on Thursday is related to performance of a county employee. At 9 in the morning on February 9th, you have a briefing, more of a conversation related to the habitat conservation plan with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife representatives. So looking forward to that conversation myself. I'm sure you are as well.
We are too.
At 10 in the morning, you have a commissioner's check-in, and I will be posting that agenda of many different items tomorrow before noon. At 12, on Thursday, February 29th, you have a lunch meeting with the appointed directors. And at 6 in the afternoon, you have the Thurston Mason County Medical Society annual dinner meeting. I think all 3 of you are invited to that. Moving on to Friday, February 10th, At least Commissioner Hutchins and Commissioner Blake will be part of the Thurston Mesa Behavioral Health Organization briefing. At 9, you will have reviewed the agenda of the upcoming meeting for the Thurston Mason Behavioral Health Organization. And I believe at 12:30 in the afternoon, you have interviews related to new staff joining the Thurston Mason Behavioral Health Organization. Moving on to next week, on Monday, February 13th, you have nothing on your combined calendar, and that will put us to February 14th, where we review the agenda in the morning for the February 14th Board of County Commissioners meeting. Thank you.
Any questions, comments?
Nope.
Any questions, comments? Nope. All righty. With that, I'd like just to take a second to congratulate Ramiro Chavez for his new appointment in terms of not being the interim county manager any longer. He is the county manager, and we are absolutely proud to have him on board. He is fantastic in being ahead of the game on many occasions. That keeps us out of trouble, keeps the SUT3 out of trouble. And when not, he's there with us all the way to the final fight on any issue we take on. Thank you so much for coming on board, and we look so much forward to working with you and in the interesting things that come for 2017. Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioners. Really appreciate your trust, and I'm really looking forward to working with you, the board, and the staff to make county government more transparent and more efficient.
Yes, you bet.
Thank you.
With that in mind, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair, I move to adjourn the Board of County Commissioners meeting of February 7th, 2017.
I second that.
It's been moved and second to adjourn the Board of County Commissioners meeting for February 7th, 2017. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We are adjourned.
Thank you.